Anti-Afro Svengalis. This is part 2. Umar's cousin, Medicaid fraud. He's been mowed out of the weeds. The legal update and the attacks on anti-Afro Svengalis. This is a continuation. It's not a rehash. Be sure you click on the link to listen to part 1 so this information can gel. Because if you're listening to part 2, you're going to say, oh my goodness, what are you referring to? Listen to part 1. Also, this is a reminder. We know who we're talking about, so there is no need to type the person's name in the comment section. Comment freely, please, without typing the person's name in the comment section. Now, what I think is important for me to do, to give a brief overview about how this got started. Trust me, if I try to tell you all the details, we'd be here for a very long time. So basically how this all got started is this person took exception to me making comments about Umar Johnson. This person supported Umar Johnson. So this person went on the attack against me personally, and it just escalated for many reasons. And the person just continued to make these comments and create these elaborate lies, make these statements, and it got to the point where he started violating ethical principles of the profession. He even started telling people or spreading it online that I'm up on charges with the board, and it just was really weird, because if I was brought up on any charges, how would he know it before I do? It doesn't make any sense. And I've never been brought up on any sort of disciplinary action or anything with the board. But let me say this: if you ever feel any person, doesn't matter what profession they're in, they have a license, certificate, and you feel that they've engaged in any sort of unethical, dangerous, illegal behavior, by all means, make a report. I'm certainly not going to stand in your way, but here's the issue. When people go about making reports, when they know good and well that they're making up something, they know they don't have any grounds in good faith to file a complaint, then that becomes harassment towards that agency, especially if it's persistent and the information is fabricated. Fact of the matter, this is something Umar Johnson had been saying. This is something this dude was saying and telling everybody to report. To this day, I haven't had a single call, I haven't had a single inquiry. There are no grounds for a complaint. And what people don't understand, disciplinary action with any board is legislated. The actions that people can be disciplined for are set by law. They're not willy-nilly. It's not about personality conflicts. It's not about you cussed online. It's not about somebody doesn't like you. It's not about somebody's taking revenge. The behavior has to be something that has been legislated and it's prohibited. If that is not the case, then there is no action. There's no grounds by which the board will even consider taking action. Medicaid fraud is prohibited. Coming online and diagnosing people publicly is prohibited. You can't possibly be accurate in what you're saying because you don't know who these individuals are. And it's incredibly damaging to the profession to engage in this conduct. So those types of behaviors are legislated and they're prohibited by law. So that is the situation that we're dealing with with this person. This person did this. I didn't tell this person to do this. This person continued and continued and continued. And it wasn't just towards me that this person engaged in this behavior. So let me tell you how I became pretty much, I guess you can say, extremely angry with this Texas board, this regulating board. And it's a reality of life. I was contacted gung ho. There was this push to get this going. I didn't know this other situation was going on about the Medicaid fraud. That was going on at the same time my complaint was being investigated. Little did I know. But then all of a sudden, after all this gung ho, give me this information, I need this, people are helping me gather info because the channel had been taken down. So several people had videos that had been posted. And then there was this sudden shift, a weird, odd shift. And I knew something happened. I was confident that a strong, very strong reason was pushing against this complaint, which ended up being he got a formal written reprimand, which is better than nothing, which is publicly diagnosing people. I was very clear with this regulating board that had I been white, and let's make it clear, he knows that I'm not white. If I was white, he wouldn't be doing this. You know it, and I know it, people. If I was of Mexican descent or Mexican ethnicity, he wouldn't be doing this. If he was doing this, that license would have been revoked, people. No way in hell. Just like Umar, he sticks to abusing people of his own race. And I emphasize that in my complaint very strongly. Okay, this is an attack on the black community. Do they give a damn? Hell no. If he was attacking the white community, his license would be no more as we sit here and speak today. You all know this to be factual. So this crap about me being Mexican is just that bullshit. Not only did he do this 18-minute diagnosis video, he posted this photo of this person. Where he got the photo, God only knows. He knows good and damn well the photo is not me. He knows this. This is just exacerbating an existing issue, which is extremely troubling. The conduct is so far out of the realm of professionalism, but they had another agenda going. I made it very clear to them that I knew this was a situation. They would have put everything together to get rid of that license if I was not black. And nobody's going to convince me of that, people. No one. No way in hell is he going to come for a white woman like this. And I'm not saying prove it either, because you shouldn't be doing this to anybody. It wasn't until I wanted to see if my complaint disposition was publicly posted. And I told the board, this better be publicly posted. It's only been a week, right? So I went to go check. It's not appearing online yet. And that's when I found the Medicaid fraud. Are you trying to tell me, people, if I was a white woman, that shit would not been up there together? Because it's up there on the board about the Medicaid fraud. You're trying to tell me if I was white, he would not have both the letter, because I have the letter, both episodes would not be up there now. And let me tell you something else. There were several other people who filed complaints against him. And guess what race they are? Not a single one was white. Do you think if 4 white people filed complaints against this dude, he would have a license right now? Do you think he would have the nerve or the guts to do this to 4 white people? Answer that for me. Do you think last year, because listen to this, last year he did this to other black people and tried to come on the internet and said that I filed a complaint against him, which I didn't. Do you think those people were white? He has a history of this, people. He has a history of attacking other black folks, and Texas isn't doing anything about it. It wasn't until he messed with the white man's money did they get him. Stealing from the white man. That's what got him. Don't tell me, people, I know what the hell is going on here. And that's what's going to happen to Umar when he steals enough. When I said steals enough, because it's getting there, that's a whole nother story. I'm not going to go off on a tangent. That stuff was brewing with Umar. Okay? Do you realize how serious this Medicaid fraud is? And let me tell you something. For the moment, I'm going to put it aside about what happened to me because there's something else going on with that. Let's see. I want to tell you how serious this issue is. There are several anti-fraud warriors. We were all talking, and several knew right away how serious this was because of what they do for a living. They knew right away. There were other anti-fraud warriors who were saying, this is a slap on the wrist. I said, okay, anti-fraud warrior number 3, I'm just saying the number, tell anti-fraud warrior number 2 what this means. They're like, oh no, this is very serious. And they proceeded to explain just how serious this Medicaid fraud is. Number 1, when you are identified as having engaged in Medicaid fraud, and let me explain Medicaid fraud. Whenever you have government benefits, any type of, I'll say health, because when we say health, it means mental health care, dental care, medical care, anything along the lines, any sort of referrals, physical therapy, anything along those lines. That money comes to the state, but it's called a federal pass-through. Comes down from the federal government. So technically speaking, those are Medicaid funds. Now, in your individual state, there's sub-programs that are given different names. These are government funds, people. Federal funds when you get down to it. Even if it's passed through the state and the state is administering these funds. So, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I mean, and I'm putting the link actually on the bottom so you can read. I encourage you to read up on this because this is eventually managed by the Office of the Inspector General, OIG. So when you provide a service, a mental health service, and it's not through private insurance, like for example, Blue Shield or Aetna or Community Health Group, whatever private insurance or managed care, HMO, okay, that is not connected to the federal government, you have to submit this billing process And every year, you are supposed to be audited. Obviously, they're not going to be able to audit every single billing that you submit. But sometimes red flags occur. I don't know what happened with the red flag and the $8,000. Something happened that red flagged that. I have no idea. But when he used somebody else's national provider ID, very clearly that's going to be discovered eventually, and it did. So he straight up stole somebody's number. For the life of me, I can't understand how and why he would do that, but I will tell you this. I'm going to guess on that. I bet you that person worked in the same office as he did. How else would you be able to intercept the mail to get that check? Oh boy, this is straight up thievery. So that is under the False Claims Act. That, people, is a felony. That falls under, I'm repeating deliberately, the Federal False Claims Act. Every incident of fraud is reported to the federal government. Every incident of Medicaid fraud is sent to the Attorney General's office in the state, and it's sent to the U.S. Attorney's office, and they decide whether or not they will prosecute. It's up to them. Now, will $8,000 result in prosecution? I can't say whether or not it will, but likely the cases that have millions and millions of dollars typically are the ones they choose, but sometimes they go after the small numbers as a deterrent. I can't tell you what will happen, but I'm telling you this: when you engage in this type of behavior, you expose yourself to criminal prosecution. That's one hazard. That's a big hazard. Here is another very serious, very, very serious issue. When you get credentialed to bill the government, there is a process called exclusionary status. And they will run your name. Insurance companies, whether or not you are billing the federal government, listen very carefully. You can be billing for Blue Shield. I'm just making up any company. HealthNet. They are still going to run your name through the OIG system to see if you have ever had any issues with billing fraud. That would mean you either have had a misdemeanor conviction, which would be a mandatory exclusion, which means you cannot bill any government program, or you have a permissive exclusion, which means you have been sanctioned for fraudulent billing. So even if that insurance company doesn't engage in any government billing program, it's still part of their credential evaluation process. And they will decide whether or not they want to allow you to bill under their system. And these programs, these insurance companies, although you may be working with them under one separate program that isn't government billing, they typically work with hospitals that do have government billing. So in some respect, they're tied to the government. It may not be with you over here doing mental health care, but they are certainly attached to this huge hospital that has tons of billing with the government. So what do you think they're going to say if they come across someone who's been sanctioned for fraudulent billing? You think they're going to let that person continue to bill with their agency? You do the math. Now, one of the sanctions that this person received because of this situation, and this was a settlement, he is no longer eligible to serve as a supervisor. He cannot supervise individuals seeking to gain their hours to become licensed professional counselors. So this was considered a settlement. And so now, although the license is active, he has to get, I guess, some training. But here's the problem. When you go up for credentialing, they ask you questions. Have you been sanctioned? Have you been disciplined since the last time you were credentialed? They ask you that. And you know they're going to check anyway, right? God, people. I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to say. I mean, what in the world would make someone think doing something like this wouldn't eventually come back if it's not through an audit, through karma? I mean, looking over your shoulder it's just, to me, it's never even been worth the consideration. They come and they do audits like every year. There are internal audits. There's all types of audits. There's random audits. It's just all types of audits, people, that can be going on and you don't even know about it. And there's so many more things I can say, and I probably will. I don't know how this happened, but it makes you wonder the time spent online. And like I'm really caring, you really need to make sure you're keeping up with the work that you do and it's being properly documented. And as you see, this person was sanctioned for not keeping the documentation up to date. This is a systemic issue. It wasn't just one issue. I want to leave you for now with something that just might blow you away. It's an example of just how you never know when a situation will visit upon you and get you in check. I'm trying to show you just what can happen if you have an honor system and you violate it. An honor system is that you're being trusted to do the right thing and you're dishonest and you rip off the government. Okay, this therapist seeing this client, then he gets these inquiries, I'll make this fast, asking for all this information about this client from the board, regulating board. All the legal processes were fulfilled. So they want to know when this client came. And so they were able to get all of that information. This therapist had billed for these sessions. So they come to make it known and they filed a complaint because he billed for sessions where he clearly did not see this client. And how do you know he didn't see this client? Some of you might be saying because the client was deceased. No, that isn't how they know. The reason they know, and of course he got paid for the sessions. The reason they know he didn't see this client is because the client had been arrested for murdering his family. So the dates that he put down were the dates after the client had been arrested and put in the county jail. Because when you do your billing, you put location, there's a code. Like, are you in the field? You're in a facility, you're at home, you're at the office. So he has all these codes, office, 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 office. And then he also was putting down that he made phone calls. One never knows. Had this therapist really been in contact with this client, interventions quite possibly could have been rendered to avert a tragedy. And no, I'm not saying it's this therapist's fault to this person murdered his family, but he lied. He stole money. And he thought he was going to get away with it. Got busted in the worst kind of way, just like the person we're talking about. And I think it's ironic this person got busted at a time where he was full-fledged attacking me. While he was full-fledged attacking not just me, but other people, he was engaging in fraud. To me, that is just the epitome of just irony. Yes, seek justice, but don't replicate the attacks that people perpetrate upon you, in particular if they are evil and nefarious. Battle with the truth. Do not indulge lies. Some things you can say a million times. They will never grow old. They will remain relevant. And one of those things is the truth will set you free. In the meantime, you know the drill. Buyer, beware.